Last week was the foreplay, if you will, and this week we get some satisfaction. And it's weird that this bothers me and that I'm even thinking about this. I'll just get real deep into my monstera. Guys, I'm too serious, I'm a miserable bitch. I think I've given maybe 3 1-star ratings in my time on BookTube and potentially my life. Wow. It's in there. What you got? Come in. Wow. Oh my god. You like that? Okay, so hello, happy new week. Apparently vlogs run Tuesday to Tuesday now. I don't know why. It works out pretty well though, because I'm pretty sure the last day of January is a Tuesday. So this one is going to see us through to the end of the month, and it's kind of like a part 2 to last week's vlog, which isn't every weekly vlog, just a new installment in life. Essentially, I've been editing all day and I'm gonna go make dinner and then spend the rest of the day lying down. But the goal for this week is to pretty much finish all of the things that I started last week. So we have a couple of things that I'm actively reading. This is exciting because the thing that I hate about reading more than one book at once is that it takes longer to finish anything. So it feels like you're really stagnant and you're not progressing, but then it gets to this point where you're gonna finish everything really quickly, and that feels really good. Last week was the foreplay, if you will, and this week we get some satisfaction. So the main book is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I am 523 pages into this. I have 250 pages left and I'm going to be reading, I say this, I'm going to be reading a minimum of 50 pages per day, I feel. And actually, you know, I read 50 pages really quickly yesterday morning before I went to Leeds for the 1975, and I know that if I ever tried to replicate that, it wouldn't happen. Like I just read so well in the morning. It's a shame that I have other things that I need to do in the day, but I'm really enjoying this so far. One of my favorite things about epic fantasy in general is seeing how they've influenced other series, and I'm enjoying seeing similarities between this and The Realm of the Eldlings and Game of Thrones. And even if it's not similarities between the books necessarily, just seeing that they've drawn on the same kind of folklore and legend is really interesting to me, and I'm getting into it now. I don't want to say it's taken a while because I liked the writing style immediately, but now I'm like excited and I'm interested and I want to continue. So this one is set in a world where the same things repeat, like the same events repeat every age, and there are agents of light and dark that are working to tip the world towards light or dark, and every age one of them gets a step closer, and it's like this eternal struggle. An influential player in this eternal struggle is the Dragon Reborn, who is one of the main characters in this series. We are following a group of kids, one of which is the dragon. I say kids, I'd say they're around maybe like between 16 and 20, and they are all influential players in this age. One of them is the dragon. A couple of them are very strongly gifted in the one power, which is it the light power, or is it just, I mean, it's the one power, so I guess it's just the power. But like the good magic that the Aes Sedai have is, I think, water, wind and spirit, and the bad magic is fire and earth. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can gather. I'm at the point now where I'm starting to form some theories about what I feel is going to happen to some characters. Matt, I feel, is going to be an interesting one, and I'm actually excited to see how that plays out. I feel like knowing series that have been influenced by this is helping as well, because I know that a lot of people say that The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington is very similar to this, especially in the beginning, like the first books of both series. I feel like I have some inklings about where things might be going based on the fact that I've read The Shadow of What Was Lost, and I'm really interested. And also I have watched season 1 of the show for this, which I actually really enjoy doing when it comes to high and epic fantasy, because I feel like it gives me more context, which allows me to become submerged in the world a little bit quicker. I have pretty much not spoken all day. And then I've just done a vlog update to wrap up last week's vlog, and I've had a brief 10-minute meeting, and now I'm doing this, and I can tell, we can tell that your girl shouldn't be talking, so I'm going to move on quickly. The live show for this, before I do move on, is going to be on the 4th of February at 6 p.m. UK on Sandra from Got a Thing for Things channel, if you are interested in anyone's thoughts on that. Now moving on, I'm also currently reading Priest by Sierra Simone. This one is for the Literature Book Club, which is Steph from Steph Loves Book Club. The live show for this is going to be on the 2nd of January at 8 p.m. This one's the 4th at 6 on Sandra's channel. This one is the 2nd at 8 on Steph's channel, I believe. This one is a taboo romance about a priest and one of the women in his parish who has some sins to confess. So I am 70 pages into this now, and I'm enjoying it, but it's not what I expected, because I've read a very short novella by Sierra Simone called Supplicant, which had the most like beautiful, melodramatic, metaphorical writing that was just, it was just so dramatic, and I loved it, and I expected the same from this, and it's not giving that. It's giving just like typical romance writing style, which is fine. Actually helpful in that, because this is my bedtime book. Not because it's romance, or technically it is because it's romance, it's because it doesn't take as much attention and focus for me to concentrate on this as it does something like this. So yeah, it's helpful in that regard, because that means that it is serving its purpose perfectly, but I'm sad because I wanted that super metaphorical, dramatic writing style. So yeah, these are my two active reads. I also am reading We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, which I'm 4 chapters into, and I put it on pause because it's not serving its purpose as a No Thoughts Head Empty bedtime book. So we will come back to that a little bit later in the week, and potentially there's one more book that I want to squeeze into this vlog as well. So I have a lot to read, but 1975 season is over and your girl is sick, so I pretty much have nothing else to do right now. Hello, good afternoon. I just wanted to check in with you guys and let you guys know that I feel really good today, with one exception, and that exception is that I have ruined my sleeping pattern. So when I got back from the 1975 at 2 a.m. on Friday night, I turned my alarm off, and I keep forgetting that it's turned off. I'm actually going to turn it back on right now, and I'm gonna get out of bed at a reasonable time tomorrow, because I don't know about you guys, but I feel really demotivated and quite depressed and unproductive if I don't wake up early. It's a catch-22 with me, because I love my sleep. I love to sleep. I don't like to go to bed particularly early, although I do. I go to bed at like 10:30 now, which is super early compared to what I used to. But I love the morning. I just feel like the day is full of possibility when you wake up early, and just being able to sit and read for an hour with a cup of coffee before 9 a.m. rolls around and I have to start working, cannot beat that feeling. So yeah, I have turned my 7:30 alarm back on, so hopefully, fingers crossed, I won't just roll over and snooze it tomorrow. But I'm feeling really, really good today. My cold has disappeared. I do still have a little bit of congestion down like the back of my nose and my throat, but like no more cough, no more runny nose. The way that cold just really turned into nothing, like it amounted to nothing. It was wild. And I got up this morning, I had my protein smoothie, I've drank half a litre of water already. After a week off, I'm gonna go and work out. I'm only gonna do 30 minutes steady state cardio because I'm not 100%, but I'm excited to do it regardless. I do Steady State. I do the LOL Cody rides, which is kind of like a chat show, but also a ride. Is weird, but Peloton is weird sometimes. But I just love Cody Rigsby. He's my favorite instructor, and he's the instructor that I go to when I feel down. I need a bit of a pick-me-up, and these rides in particular is just like steady state cardio while he just chats shit, and he has guests. I think the one that I'm gonna do has Carly Rae Jepsen in it. So that is my plan for now, and then I'm gonna go and make dinner and hopefully get some reading done. I haven't read a whole bunch. I'm on page 98 of Priest, and I'm on page 574 of Eye of the World, so I've read approximately 75 pages since I last spoke to you. But I'm not too worried about it actually, because I have a Patreon heavy weekend coming up. Tonight I just have a 1-hour live show with my patrons, which is a chatty one. But tomorrow, starting at 7 p.m, running into Saturday 7 p.m, is the Cadre and Inner Circle bi-monthly 24-hour readathon, which will have 12 hours of sprints in it. And then on Sunday, Curtis is going to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, so I'm doing daytime sprints for all tiers. So I'm not feeling too pressed about the fact that I currently haven't read much, because over the weekend I'm gonna read a ton. But yeah, I just really wanted to pop in and let you guys know that I'm feeling good, because last time I spoke to you I had a cold, and then the anxiety has been high with the discussion that we had at the end of the Bookopoly vlog, which I'm going to try and go to the doctors about within the next week. Hopefully I'll ask Curtis and see if he'll accompany me, because your girl has health anxiety, and it's not the kind of health anxiety where I go to the doctors all the time. It's the health anxiety where I never go because I'm scared. It's wild as well, just the difference in mentality between this week and last week. That is the weird thing about hormones, because the person that I was last week, I don't even know her. I do not relate to her. She was behaving unhinged, and that's the scary thing about it, I guess, and the reason why I do kind of want to sort this out, is it's the looking back on how I felt last week and not being able to relate to it or understand it or recognize it at all that is actually kind of terrifying. So we need to get that sorted, but right now I'm just going to celebrate the fact that I feel really good, and I'm going to go give myself a little bit of an endorphin boost with a 30-minute workout. Good evening, guys. So my Cadre and Inner Circle Patreon 24-hour readathon is starting in, this is still displaying my workout from earlier, which is really unhelpful. It is starting in 8 minutes. So what I should be doing is setting up for sprints instead of being here with you guys right now, but I do need to tell you guys what I'm reading, because I just want a little bit of diversity in shot, you know. Like, I've been just filming at my desk this entire vlog, and I'm about to go sit there for 12 hours of sprints across today and tomorrow. So the prompt for this month's readathon is books with words that refer to people in the title. So this can be anything, like any word that refers to a person, but like the most common ones you're gonna get are like prince and princess, king and queen. If you're a thriller reader, then you're probably gonna get like mother, daughter, sister, brother, all of that kind of stuff. So I do have a couple of books selected. These are just the ones that I'm going to be starting with, because I definitely think I'm going to get through more than these during the 24 hours. I am going to be continuing with Priest as one of the books. I am 134 pages into it, so I have about 200 pages left, and I have been reading this in bed, so realistically I'm reading it for like 30 minutes at a time. If I like dedicate my mind, like if I put my mind to this, it'll read a lot faster than that. And then the other one that I'm going to be reading is Children of the Whales Volume 10, which I've mentioned this in every vlog this year so far. But in case you missed those ones, this one is a older teen fantasy manga about a group of people who live on this floating island called the Mud Whale. And they're very isolated from the rest of the world. They don't know the rest of the world exists up until they discover another human being when they're scouting an island for supplies. And they realize the world is a lot bigger than they ever envisioned it being. And also they have to swallow some difficult truths about why they're actually isolated on this island that they live on. So when I read volume 9 in the Bookopoly vlog, I said that I need to be reading these a bit faster and that I never prioritize manga or comics. So I'm going to try and make a little bit more of an effort to actually do that and read, like I bought in Manchester volume 10, 11 and 12, and I'm going to get straight into volume 10 and hopefully like read 11 and 12 some point reasonably soon. I don't want to read them too fast, but soon enough that it's not like months and sometimes even like almost a year gap in between volumes. So as we know, I am on a little bit of a time crunch. I do want to talk to you about Priest at some point, so I will probably come and check in a couple of hours. But I do have a cup of tea that I'm waiting to brew and I need to start setting up for Sprint, so I'm gonna go do that. And I'll probably talk to you again at some point tonight because I think I'm gonna finish something.
Know for sure I am getting a second one and I do want to read one too, so obviously that's the option there.
So we have 20 minutes left of our third sprint of the evening, and actually at the beginning of I'm doing that thing where I'm procrastinating instead of using the sprints to actually properly read, because at the beginning of the second sprint I finished Children of the Whales volume 10. I gave this one 4 stars, very similar feelings to volume 9 that I read a couple of weeks ago. It's a decent one that is pushing the plot and moving the pace. I would say that I enjoyed this one, I guess, slightly more than volume 9 actually. There's just a lot going on in here, and while I'm enjoying it, I'm wondering what the end goal is, because this is only the halfway point. We've come a long way and I'm wondering how far we have to go, if that makes any sense. I am continually enjoying the villains in this series though. I do really like, my favorite character who's not a villain is Oni, but we also have, like, in terms of the villains, we've got like Rochalizo, who I don't trust him. He's not necessarily a villain, but I don't trust him. Also Liantari and Orca as well. They're just like your typical manga slash anime villain, like chaotic and well dressed, and I have to appreciate it. I will say though that I'm not particularly attached to any of the characters in here, so I'm more reading it for the plot than the characters, which, considering we are following like a small group of core characters, I feel like I would expect to have more attachment to them than I actually do. That is the first book down for our 24-hour readathon, and now I'm going to be moving into Priest, which I did want to talk to you guys about a little bit, so I guess I'll do that now. This is an interesting experience for me to read, because I've always, since I've known this book existed, I haven't been opposed to reading it at all. I'm not a religious person. I went to a Catholic primary school and a Catholic high school. I have been christened, but I didn't do confirmation, and as far as I can remember, I've never believed in religion. It's not that I don't believe in God either. I definitely can accept or acknowledge the possibility of a higher being or a god or gods out there. I personally just don't believe in religion as a construct. I don't believe that any higher being would want to be worshipped in the very restrictive way that religion sees that God should be worshipped. I've kind of believed that my entire life, as long as I've had conscious thought to be able to question these things. That's kind of where I've sat on the topic of religion. So even though I have been to Catholic schools, my schools were kind of just like, we do this because it's a requirement, and then we do all this other stuff as well. So it wasn't like you were made to believe anything, or that religion was a heavy presence within my school experience or within my household, even though all of my family are Catholic in the way that I'm Catholic, i.e. not really. This is a book that I've heard about, like I've known about this for years, and I've always kind of wanted to read it, although I wasn't a romance reader, so I never would have picked it up until I had been dipping into romances more recently. What I didn't expect was for this to bother me on a religious front. Now, obviously going into it, you know it's taboo. You know this is about a priest breaking his vows. It literally says that he does. He broke his vows on his own altar and he'd do it again. And boy, would he. So I fully knew what this was going to be going into it. But there's something like... The way that I was brought up religious, and even though consciously I have no connection to the religion that I was raised in, yet this still bothers me because like it feels bad, you know, like it feels taboo, but in a way where I'm like, oh, don't know if I like that. It's also wildly unrealistic as well because it's about this priest, and the reason he's a priest is because his sister was, content warnings, his sister was abused by the parish / town priest, sexually abused, and so she killed herself eventually because she couldn't take it any longer and she couldn't tell anybody the truth. And he wanted to go into the priesthood to be what a priest should be. So then obviously he has a conflict of interests when, well, just in general because he's a priest, but he is interested in this woman and he doesn't want to be the person that he was trying to fix. Essentially, he wanted to be a good priest. He wanted to heal the community that had been harmed by this bad priest. So then he has this conflict of interest because obviously, like, by being romantically and sexually interested in this woman, he feels like he's kind of following this same dynamic, which he's not because she's not underage and everything's consensual. But I also feel like he kind of, because it's an abuse of a position of power, and it's weird. It's weird that this bothers me and that I'm even thinking about this, because I will read a teacher, not like an underage student relationship, but I'll read a teacher-student relationship that's taboo in that regard. Literally doesn't bother me. So like if it's like a college professor and a student, does not bother me. Priest and priest worshipper Christian, that bothers me. Also, it's wildly unrealistic because she comes into his church for confession, and this is a Catholic church as well. She goes into his church for confession and she confesses her sins, and at first she doesn't want to, but he really wants to help her because he can see that she's like troubled by something. So eventually she confesses to him that her sin is that she slept with a married man, but she's like really descriptive about it in a way that you just wouldn't be. Like, she talks about how she enjoyed it, how it felt, and goes really into detail. And that is like wildly unrealistic, obviously, because you never go to confession and be like, Father, I did this dirty thing, like, let me tell you all about it. But also it's bothering me in the fact that like she has no respect for the fact that he is a priest, because you just don't go up to a priest and talk to a priest the way that she does. I feel like in her position I would be like, this guy is hot but he's a priest, and I'm gonna respect the fact that he's a priest and not be overtly sexual and rub myself all over him and say all of these like provocative things, and that's just not what's happening here. So I'm enjoying the smut as well. The smut is really, really good and I really, really like that. But there's this, it keeps like triggering this like religious fucking indoctrination I've had since I was a child. This is why religion is weird, because even somebody like me who is not actively religious, in fact does not, like, I actively dislike religion as a construct and don't believe in religion as a construct, it's still bothering me a little bit on that regard. Not to say that I don't like the book, it's just I'm bothered that I'm bothered is the thing. Like, I'm not mad at the book for being what it is because I knew what it was. I'm bothered that I'm bothered even though I'm not consciously logically bothered. Does that make sense? Plot twist, because we've actually rolled a double. I picked up Priest and I read 8 pages, and now we've rolled a double and I need to switch. So I actually have no idea what I'm reading. We're gonna go look at the subscription box shelves though. So I'm bypassing romance because I'm currently reading Priest, which is romance, so I don't want any more of that. And we're looking for a book with a word that refers to a person in the title. For some reason this was in my head, but this doesn't work. I'm looking for something probably around 300 pages if I want to get through it tomorrow. Ooh. The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio. That could be good actually. I'll pop that down. What have we got down here? I want to see what I've got on the Book of the Month shelves, but I typically don't get fantasy from Book of the Month, and I want to read more fantasy. I feel like I keep saying that I do and not actually reading any. And then the ones that get neglected the most are like the fast-paced YA fantasies. I do have Like a Sister by Kelly Garrett, but that's a thriller. Would be a quick read though. I'll just get real deep into my monstera. Wow, this is a beautiful angle. Poster Girl by Veronica Roth. which is an adult dystopian. 272. Where's Axio? 321. So not undoable. What's the writing style like? I'm gonna take this down. I feel like this would be fast paced. Oh, text is smaller. Right, so I read the first page of The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea, and I feel like it's doable. So I'm gonna take it downstairs with me and see what we've got down there, if there's anything good. Princess of Souls by Alexandra Christo. Not really feeling it. Like, I feel like I'm more excited just based on what I know to read The Girl Who Fell, is it The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea? Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. I don't think that's going to be fast enough. You know what, I've got tons of options because I've got like The Boy with the Porcelain Blade by Den Patrick. And I also have, what have I just seen? Sorcerer to the Crown would work because Sorcerer by Zen Cho. But I think I'm actually really excited to read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea now. So we're gonna go ahead and read this one. Can I balance you on my water bottle? You're behind my mic, but can that be done? Oh, I can. Although it's not focusing on what it should be. Let's get rid of this. So this one, I think, is about girls who are sacrificed to the god, like they're thrown into the sea to be sacrificed to a god to appease the god. And I think the main character's brother's beloved is chosen to be thrown into the sea, and the main character goes in her place. Yeah, so her brother's beloved is the one who's thought to be the bride, and the reason why they're throwing girls into the sea is to appease the sea god that is like that keeps bringing them storms. They believe they've been cursed by the sea god. So her brother follows his beloved, and the main character knows that if he interferes it's a death sentence, so she throws herself in instead, and she ends up in this like magical underwater realm. So 325 pages, YA, good chance of finishing it tomorrow, and I'm really excited. You know, for somebody who doesn't mood read, I'm getting really excited about mood reading these days, guys. But first, snuggles. Snuggles, baby girl. Ah, leave it. Good girl. Ooh, she fell. Bunny fell. Still struggling with that congestion, but good morning. You will be happy to know, I don't know, you probably don't care. I'm happy to report that there's children shouting outside. I'm happy to report that I did get up bright and early this morning. Hey. So yeah, I got up at 7:45. And I feel good but also terrible because I only fell asleep at 2:30. I have this thing now that I'm an old where I like, if I'm doing something that is not restful for like after 8 p.m. I guess, then I'm not going to sleep because my mind isn't in that sleepy time state. So finishing sprints like dead on midnight last night and then getting ready for bed and getting in bed, I just wasn't at the point where I was ready to shut down. I think I fell asleep at like 2:30. So I've only had about 5 hours sleep and I'm not feeling the best in that regard. But like, even though I'm tired, like I said, you wake up in the morning, the day is full of possibility. And I have actually got stuff done in terms of reading. I was going to do just a few bits, you know, before sprints, but seeing as I started a 320-page fantasy book, I felt like I needed to actually utilize this time in the morning to get some reading done. And read I have, because I am very close to halfway through The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I'm on page 145, which halfway would be like exactly 160. So I am very close to that halfway point. And this book is causing an existential crisis because I'm like, dude, what is wrong with me? Something that's very interesting about this one actually is that the synopsis, everything that's laid out in the synopsis happens in the first like 25 pages, and then the rest of the book is just a mystery. So we're following this girl and the prologue starts with her following her brother. So we have no lead up, no establishment of her life. It's just like, I am walking through the storm, I'm following my brother because he's going to do something stupid. She sees her brother's beloved hesitate when she's supposed to like sacrifice herself to this god. So the girl like just sacrifices herself instead to stop her brother from going to his death and stop this other girl being sacrificed so they can be happy, whatever, yada yada yada. And I get because the synopsis says that this is it's a magical feminist retelling of a classic Korean legend, perfect for fans of Uprooted and Miyazaki's Spirited Away. Now I haven't read Uprooted yet, but Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies, and I get that reference immediately because she has the red string of fate that's tying her to the sea god, and she's following it through this like empty, dead city that's like a bustling marketplace, except it has no bustle, like there's nobody there, but all of the signs is that somebody like should be there. So she goes to this sea god's palace and she finds him sleeping on his throne, and this is all like the first, I would say, 40 pages as well, so not spoilers at all, if that, maybe like 30 pages. But these three guys stop her and she finds out that one of these three guys is the lord that is I think it's the head of the Lotus household, and he with his two companions cut her red string of fate, which severs her soul, and they trap her soul within a cage. And along with her soul, she also loses her voice. So she is then determined to retrieve her soul and also to break the curse on the sea god, because the whole deal with this sea god is that 100 years ago, a conqueror overthrew the empire of this place where the main character's from, and the sea god grieved so deeply for the emperor that he like flew into a fit of rage, or something happened to the sea god to the point where there are these like vicious recurring storms, and if you don't sacrifice a maiden every year to the storms, then the storms never stop, and that's obviously bad for the land, and a lot of people die. So she wants to break the curse on the sea god so that they can stop sacrificing maidens to maintain a peaceful sea, and that like these storms don't keep recurring. So that's like the setup for this, but it's causing me to have an existential crisis because like it's fine. The writing is not the most beautiful thing I've ever read. Why I particularly like reading Asian fantasy tends to be because it has a very beautiful, descriptive, slow writing style, although that is more typical, I would say, with translated works. And also I notice it especially with Japanese stories. It's more like I guess like a typical Japanese storytelling style, whereas this one is more like a standard kind of YA fantasy style, but with like Korean culture, because it's the retelling of a Korean legend. So the writing is fine, like I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the setting and the world and this kind of like underwater spirit realm. The main character's fine. I'm not gelling with her especially, but she's not offensive to me. And the character of like the head of the Lotus house is interesting. I feel it's a standalone as well, which I'm glad about because I really don't want to be starting more series than necessary right now. But I'm kind of reading it just like, what is the point? And it doesn't have to have a point, and I know this, like you can just read a book because it's enjoyable, but I feel, guys, I'm too serious. I'm a miserable bitch because I'm like, okay, it's fine, but what is the point, you know? And there's nothing I can say about it that's bad, really, at all. I just don't care all that much, which I feel horrible saying because it's not bad. Like if I was to talk about it critically, I wouldn't say anything negative about it, but I also can't deny that I don't especially care. It's a decent time and it's a fast read, and I'm gonna continue reading it because I'm already halfway through and I don't have a solid reason to stop. I'm only reading it like the readathon is happening, you know, so like I'll read it, I'll finish it before 7 p.m. tonight, feeling like it's a 3-star for me. And I don't know why YA fantasy just doesn't do it for me anymore, because realistically, if the story is enjoyable, if it's well told, if the characters are enjoyable, there's no reason why I shouldn't enjoy it. But I just, like, sometimes you open a book, or sometimes I open a book and I'm like, this is YA fantasy, and then it's just like my interest is gone. And I don't know why, because it's fine. I was really looking forward to this one as well. So yeah, that's sad. I wanted to sugarcoat the shit and be like, I'm enjoying it, because like I'm not enjoying it, I just don't care. This is why I always say that 3-star reviews, 3-star ratings are truly the worst, because I just don't really have anything to say when a book is feeling like a 3-star. It's just like, it was fine, didn't love it, didn't hate it, it was a book, and that's that. So yeah, sadly not a glowing review of this one. I will say that if you like YA fantasy, I guess you will enjoy it. Why can't I say anything about it? Why? I don't know, but I'm having an existential crisis, so I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go take Brie for a walk because she is passed the fuck out right now. But yeah, I'm gonna go take her for a walk to the place where we can let her off lead. She's doing so well with her off lead training as well. But first I'm gonna go hunt down Curtis and see if he wants to come with me. We currently have, it's 10:30, so I've got an hour and a half till sprints, which is plenty of time to go for a walk and still have time to set up. What the fuck, man?
She did it.
You should have been paying.
She did it.
Come here.
Take this.
Come here. Go on. Come here. Good girl, go on. Oh no, I'm not prepared. So it is now 7:10. My Patreon readathon has just ended. I have an Indian on the way that I'm really excited for. I don't think I've eaten since 12:15. I had 2 lint balls at about 3:30 and that's it. So I'm really excited. But the readathon's finished. It finished at 7 and I actually read quite a lot. I think I read just under 600 pages in total across 3 books. So the thing that I didn't do, I read Children of the Whales. We know that. The thing that I didn't do is finish this. I made it to page 210. I actually put this down in the middle of a sex scene. Forgot that I was in the middle of a sex scene. Picked this back up and then was shocked when I opened this again. But I've read, I think, 80 pages of this in total over the 24 hours. And I have read The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea in its entirety. And I am going to eat my words. I enjoyed this book. I really liked this book, but I didn't like the writing in this book. And that's why I was struggling so hard. So the second half was better than the first half because I'd spent some time in the world. The plot was progressing and I could learn to appreciate those things once we were past the introductory stages and realize that my problem with this book is the writing. And there's nothing terribly wrong with the writing. I just personally didn't find it engaging, which was causing me to struggle when I was concentrating on reading this and was making me feel like I wasn't enjoying the book, which through the first half I wasn't particularly. It was just fine. But what I realized very quickly is that this is like a Korean version of the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden, and also, which is like a long form version, and also Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Obviously this one is Korean law, whereas Winter Night is Russian and Gods of Jade and Shadow is Mexican. It is also obviously like a young adult version as well. So I really like that type of story, which is a retelling of like legend, lore or myth with it has kind of the structure of a fairy tale, but obviously fleshed out and with a romantic twist in there as well to like make it brief. But if you liked this, I do really think that you would also like Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. As well as generally not finding the writing engaging, I also did find this to be quite choppy and disjointed. I think that this could have benefited, like I would have read this if it was twice as long and if the author would have taken time to, I don't want to say develop things, I mean yeah, develop things, like to sit with moments in this book instead of dashing between scenes. Like it felt like this could be a movie, like you could make a movie from this book without cutting anything from it because there was barely anything to cut in here. It was very much like straight to the point, traveling scenes, like a guy running across the city with a paragraph, and it all felt quite abrupt and choppy. And something else that I didn't love about this is definitely a personal preference thing, the magic in here was quite ambiguous. It was very much like I touched his hand, there was a flash of light, and I was in a dream sequence kind of thing, which I prefer things to be a little bit more concrete. Now, if you like your fast-paced stories with no frill and no faff, this might be one for you, because you also got to remember that I'm really enjoying this. I'm 600 and something pages in and absolutely nothing has happened. People have just traveled around the country. So this is my preference, which is why I'm always a little bit dubious about like a 300-page fantasy standalone. But I loved the last 40 pages of this. It was so sweet, and it had a romantic plot line, which is always going to get me on board. It was really cute. 2. I really loved it. I really liked the world and the structure of the legend. I loved the spirit world and how that was created and how it is very reminiscent of Spirited Away, which, like I said, one of my favorite movies. And I liked the world building. The characters were fine. I would have liked them a lot more if this book was twice as long, but I like me a book that's twice as long than this one. Though that being said, if it was twice as long, I wouldn't have picked it up for a 24-hour readathon. So yeah, really enjoyed this, which I'm glad because I really love this edition. Like coral and turquoise are two of my favorite colors, so I adore this cover. And throughout the first half of this, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to unhaul this book. And it's so beautiful. But no, I get to keep it now. It was a 3-star. I don't know if I mentioned that. It came out as a 3-star. I kind of want to reframe the way that I'm rating books as well, because I want a 3-star to mean I liked it and like I genuinely liked it. And the books that, when I said before, like there's nothing worse than a 3-star, because a 3-star for me at the minute is fine. Like there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. I just didn't like it. I want to make that a 2-star. And then I want a 1 to be, because I never ever give 1-star ratings. I do think they're kind of harsh, but I want 1 to be like, I don't like this book. 2 to be like, it's fine. It did nothing wrong. I just didn't like it. Like I wouldn't say it's a bad book, but I don't like it. 3, I want to be more like this, where like I really liked it, but there are a few things I don't like about it. 4, almost perfect. 5, god tier. But we'll see. Because like I've been using the same kind of rating system for so long, I feel like I'm going to feel really bad about giving a book that has nothing wrong with it a 2-star. And then I'm going to feel even worse about giving a book a 1-star. I rarely give, I think I've given maybe 3 1-star ratings in my time on BookTube and potentially my life. Normally, if I give a 1-star rating, it's personal, like you've personally offended me. But the 24-hour readathon is now over. Like I've mentioned earlier in the week, I am doing sprints. I think I'm going to start sprints with all of my patrons tomorrow at midday until about 5. And I was going to spend the rest of my evening, my Saturday evening, doing something else, maybe doing some stuff with Curtis. But football's on at 8. And I got up early, so I'm not going to want to be awake like long past 10. So I might just carry on reading. My next task, I guess, after my food, of course, we're going to devour the Indian and then potentially carry on reading, with my next task being to finish Eye of the World. This is where it's coming through, where I said last week we started a bunch of stuff. This is where we finish a bunch of stuff rapid fire.
It's a mess, but just know I'll be listening to the Thursday Murder Club while I am doing all of that. But for right now, honestly, I'm just gonna sit down. I'm just gonna drink my coffee because I cannot be bothered.
Good afternoon. I've just wrapped up my Sunday sprints. We did 5 hours and 15 minutes today, which puts me at a total of 17 hours of sprints this weekend, not on Patreon, which is intense. I was not as dedicated to reading today as I have been over the days of the readathon. So, and I'm reading 2 books at once. So I have read the equivalent of what I had left in one of these books, but because it's across 2 books, I'm still not finished. So my goal is to finish one of these tonight. I'm hoping for Eye of the World, but yesterday when I said I was going to go and read, I read about 3 pages of this, realized it was too late in the day for me to focus on it properly, switched over to this and ended up planning out my content until June instead. So not a lot of reading was done, but kind of understandable because at that point I'd done like 7 hours of sprints and read a whole ton of stuff. But yeah, I do have Fortnite tonight. My plan is to make food, watch Game of Thrones, take Brie for like a reasonably long walk, and then Fortnite at some point, but hopefully in between I can finish this one off. I have very little left of both of these now. I have 71 pages left, 72 pages of Eye of the World, and I have 69 pages of Priest left. I am so ready to be done with this. I'm sad that I don't like it, but I don't. The more I read it, the more I realize that this should have been a romance novel, or it should have been just like a really dirty, smutty novella, because what it's doing is kind of trying to combine both, and the smut is really, really good, But when we try and bring a plot into this, when we try and make it make sense, that is the downfall of this book to me. All we have is this guy's inner monologue, which is so whiny and tortured, like dump your girlfriend or quit your job. Those are your options. I understand this is difficult for you, but you're making terrible decisions all over the show and I'm not here for it. So yeah, I'm so ready for this one to be over, and I'm kind of ready for this to be over as well, not because I'm not enjoying it, although I haven't enjoyed the, I want to say, shift in setting since we got to the part with the ways, and like I'm past that now. But that was the part where I was like, I'm not enjoying it as much as I was. Still liking it though, but I'm ready for this to be over just because I've been reading it for so long, and I'm so close to the end of both of them as well. I'm a super impatient person, and I really like things being done, so when it gets to the point of things almost being done, I start to get really like antsy and on edge about it, and I'm currently in that position with 2 books. So yeah, fingers crossed at least one of these will be done today, and then I can knock the other one out tomorrow. We have success. It took me way longer than anticipated, but I've just finished The Eye of the World. It is just past midnight. It's 7 minutes past midnight, which is really, really late for me. But I do have to film my wrap up tomorrow, so I desperately needed to get this done. Otherwise I would have just gone to bed and finished it in the morning, but I do still have about 40 pages of Priest left, which I'm not sure that I'm going to get done in bed, because I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. So I may have to finish that one up in the morning, but at least it's a lot faster paced than Eye of the World. So I really enjoyed it, but I'm going to be bringing you any more detailed thoughts I have tomorrow morning, because I want nothing more than to be asleep right now. Good morning. I'm using this update to decide whether I need to straighten my hair before filming or not. I think I like it though. I think it fits the vibe of today's outfit pretty well as well. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of filming today. That's my main thing. I have 2 vlogs to end, including this one. I have a new vlog to start, and I have 2 videos to like film, like sit down videos to film in their entirety, including my wrap up, which means that I have now finished both of the books that I was working on. I did obviously finish Eye of the World last night. I finished Priest this morning. So very different books and very different feelings on them. We will start off with Eye of the World, which I gave 4 stars to. I really enjoyed it. I think though that the end, the last 100 pages, were my least favorite part of the book, because I don't like the action scenes in this book. They're not well written. I just really don't think that the action scenes are well written. The writing loses my interest as soon as we get to any kind of battle scene, which obviously we did have some kind of conclusion, like some kind of climax in this book, which did involve action. So yeah, it was losing me a little bit there, and I also feel like we spent such a long time throughout this book moving very slowly across the country, and then in the last 150 pages it was like we sprinted to like a concluding like event, to the point where I just felt like it was a very different change of pace. We very slowly sank into the series throughout the beginning, and then it felt like the end was just a little bit of a rush. In terms of characters, my favorites I think are definitely Perrin and Lan, and you know I'm here for whatever is going down with Lan and Nynaeve throughout this. Whether it's something, whether it's nothing, I'm here for it. My least favorite character is Rand, which is very unfortunate because the majority of this story is told directly from his perspective. I think, and maybe I don't like him because the story's majorly told through his perspective, but I don't like the way he's obsessed with Egwene. And I get it, like, he's a teenager, he's come from this village, he has no experience of the real world, and man, it shows. He has a whole ton of male privilege and no life experience to back it up, I think is my issue with Rand. I'm excited to continue. I've been reading this since December. It's been a long ass time. I think I started this book before Christmas, and I was going to immediately start The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie and read that in a similar manner to how I've read this, but now I'm wondering, because I couldn't speed up the pace through this for the life of me for most of it, I'm wondering whether I should start The Great Hunt and start reading a chapter a day, alongside everything else I'm reading. I haven't decided on that yet because I am, like, the other vlog that I'm finishing up is a spoiler video on this. Still don't know whether you're going to see that video. It depends how it comes together, I guess, how I feel about it once it's edited, because a part of me at this point doesn't feel like I've said a great deal about it, but then also I feel like that's kind of expected for the first book in a series. Like, I don't have any big shocked reactions or many theories, but for me to continue and make spoiler videos for the rest of the series, I have to make a spoiler video for book one. So we'll see how that comes together. But just because of that, reading one chapter a day is not the best way to read a book that you're making a spoiler video on. Thank you to Cody for gifting me this way back when as well. I'm glad I finally got to it. Interestingly, this was one of the big contenders for Catch Up Book Club before we settled on First Law. So it's wild that, like, I'm finally getting to it now alongside the series that we actually chose for Catch Up Book Club. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised by this. I had no idea how I was going to feel, and I'm glad that I ended up liking it. On the flip side of that, a book that I was pretty sure I was going to like, I've been excited to read this book for such a long time, and I really did not love it. It almost was 1 star. It scraped to 2, and that is Priest by Sierra Simone. I really did not have a good time with this, and surprisingly not because of the religious element. Thinking about it though, I really don't like books that have religion, like a real world religion, as a main part of them. So based on that, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. I think the reason why I wanted to read this is because of the taboo nature of it and the way that I thought that this was not necessarily going to be anti-religion, but I thought that this would be, I guess, a subversion of religious expectation, and not a mockery of the church exactly, but a critique of how strict religion, especially Catholicism, is and how much it expects of people. But that surprisingly is not why I didn't like it. The reason why I didn't like this is because it didn't make any sense to me. The main character, the priest, Father Bell, was just so whiny and insufferable. He wanted to have his cake and eat it the entire way through this, and it's like, you are making a lot of big decisions about your life based on impulse. And obviously, like, these are the kind of decisions that you don't make lightly, but what I don't enjoy is being inside of this guy's head as he's just crying and whining and moaning about how he wants the woman and he wants the job. And it's like, the two don't go together. You cannot be a Catholic priest and have this woman instead, even if your intentions are pure. And the smut was really, really dirty in here, and that was my favorite part of it. Probably the reason why I got a 2 and not a 1 is because I did enjoy the smut at the beginning, but the further we went on, it just made less and less sense, because the plot in and of itself, I guess, is kind of wholesome in the way that he's trying to balance his devotion to his God and his devotion to this woman that he met like 2 months ago, and it's him not weighing up the pros and cons of each exactly, but trying to keep his faith while also living his life. And that was just like a lot more thought out and wholesome than I expected from this book. I expected this book to be cover to cover filthy priest smut, and for me the inclusion of a plot ruined it. I could have read 150 pages of dirty priest smut, or I could have read like a romance about a priest. I wouldn't have picked it up. I actually just got an email asking to promote a Amish romance, and I was like, absolutely fucking not, sir, you are barking up the wrong tree. But yeah, I didn't have a whole ton of sympathy for this guy either, because I just felt like he was making impulsive decisions. I mean, joining the priesthood was a choice. Is it called the priesthood? Becoming a priest was a choice to start off with, but then within 2 months wanting to leave your life's vocation for a woman, also a choice. So, and I didn't like her either. She had a lot of pick me energy, but also doing the martyr thing of like, you can't leave your life's work for me, and it just did not work for me in any way apart from the first 2 sex scenes. 3 sex scenes I thought were pretty hot. So that concludes this week's vlog, because obviously we have the rest of the day is the rest of the month, but I need to spend the majority of today filming and editing in preparation for next week's vlog, which, not to be coy, I'm not going to tell you what it is. I will tell you it is a bit of a variety vlog, so there's no theme within the books that I'll be reading for the vlog, but it is something just a slight bit different because of the structure of it. I will give you a clue. What if I never make it though? This is the issue. This is why I don't want to tell you, not because I'm being coy, like stay tuned for the surprise. It's because I don't want to say that I'm doing it and then have commitment issues and then not want to do it, but feeling like I have to because I said it's something I've done before anyway. But if it happens, don't expect anything from me, guys, apart from a video on Thursday and Sunday, because you will get those. But what those videos will be, don't ask me, because I can't commit. But yeah, I do hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.